I'm Jeff McClain, a wealth advisor with Wells Fargo Private Bank. As the presenting sponsor for today's event, we're grateful for the opportunity that we have to show our commitment to the Silicon Slopes community, where we spend so much of our time advising entrepreneurs, founders, and executives. We have the depth and the resources, the experience to work with so many here in the community, and we're grateful for the chance to show our support for what's happening here in the Silicon Slopes area. So thanks for coming to today's event. Feel free as you watch today to find me and connect with me on LinkedIn, and we look forward to starting a conversation with you.
Welcome to Silicon Slopes Breakfast. Appreciate you all tuning in. Today we are joined by Marc Chenn, who's the co-founder and CEO of SaltStack. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
You're looking very sharp, and I apologize, I'm not.
You know what? I'm going to just refrain from commenting on that.
All right, so 2020 has been a busy year for you in a lot of positive ways, but before we get to that, why don't you let us know what SaltStack is, a little bit of the founding story, idea, where it came from, and how it works.
Sure, thanks. So SaltStack's a software company, enterprise software, that was founded in 2011 by myself and my co-founder Tom Hatch. Tom's our CTO, and he's the technical founder. He's the real genius behind the tech. But what we do is we specialize in providing intelligent automation solutions for companies of all sizes. Really, anybody that has a data center or deploys software inside of their company needs automation to do it at scale. So we help them to do that faster and at greater scale. And we also provide a security platform as well that allows people to protect their endpoints.
Yeah, so obviously 2020 is a year where there's a need for security more than in the past. We'll get to that as well. But the company has a CEO, which is you, and a co-founder that's technical. You don't come from an overly technical background, but you did learn through a previous job how to kind of sell this type of stuff. So what was that journey for you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so in, I guess it was 99, 2000, I was introduced to a company called Altiris here locally. And Altiris was led by Greg Butterfield, who is known, I think, in these parts pretty well. Great CEO, somebody who was, very visionary in terms of bringing automation to data centers as well at that point in time. We provided at that point a technology that was imaging software for infrastructures, and so that was where I really kind of got my feet wet in the space. I was selling it. I was able to learn, what do customers want and why do they buy and what does an ideal customer look like typically. And that was a great opportunity for me to be able to be on the front lines and learning why customers would consume the software. And the company was great. It went public in 2002. Later, it was acquired by Symantec for a little over $1 billion. And so I saw firsthand how this technology fit into the ecosystem, why it was of value. I learned about the competitive landscape, and really am grateful for that experience just because it was such a eye-opener for me coming right out of school. I pivoted in my career, as you alluded to, after business school, where I studied finance. I went back east with my family, and we moved to New York City, and I spent time at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, kind of working on Wall Street, and that was a completely different world for us. We were exposed to how businesses were financed, how they were sold, that whole process going from capitalization to acquisition or IPO. And I feel like that really rounded out a lot of at least my learning and my perspective and understanding about how the business world worked. And I learned a lot of things, and in particular, I learned that I was really intrigued and excited by the software space. And so for me, returning to software was the goal. And in 2009, I exited Wall Street and joined an early stage software company that was in the fintech space. In this case, it was a compliance software, and it was SaaS-based, and we were bringing compliance solutions to hedge funds. And at that time, it was very timely because it was on the heels of the Bernie Madoff scandal and some of the challenges that were being experienced on Wall Street. And so it was very timely to be able to intersect both my software background with the financial services exposure, and to marry those together in a way that brought value to a new set of customers. So Compliance 11 was the name of that company, and we sold it in 2011 to Charles Schwab. And that opened up a door for me to then explore what I was going to do next. So I was introduced to my co-founder, and that's how the whole SaltStack journey began.
Gotcha. That's cool. Thank you for the context. So I imagine being the CTO of like Goldman Sachs is fairly nerve-wracking every day, let alone when there's civil unrest or elections or pandemics. So you probably saw firsthand when you were at those finance houses how many systems were operating and how many were vulnerable and how many were archaic and how many were cutting edge. But yeah, that's a job I'd never want to be the CTO of a big bank like that. All right, so big news for you guys is somebody else thought your company was cool and had good technology. Walk us through the funnest parts and the coolest parts of that acquisition that VMware did recently.
Yeah, thanks. So October 14th, we completed our acquisition by VMware. VMware is a very, very large, highly acquisitive player in our space. Amazing company. We've known about them for quite some time. And that acquisition sort of culminated an 8.5-year journey for us. So we are delighted by the acquisition, excited by the opportunity. We were acquired by the cloud management business unit within VMware, and we become really an integral part to their vRealize automation suite of tools. Yeah, so quite a journey. We've actually known these guys for quite some time. So back in 2013, we started we had our first user conference called SaltConf. We actually just had our 7th SaltConf just last week. And they were one of our first and earliest sponsors. We developed one of our earliest technical integrations with VMware, and we've always known of them and had really a pretty great relationship just on the periphery as we were bringing value to the market. There were times where it felt like there was strong interest. They were also, interestingly, one of the largest investors in one of our key competitors in the market. And so there was some interesting dynamics that existed. But, story that we have heard after the fact is that 2017, they really started to take a look at this market and asking themselves, how are we going to fill this particular void in our product portfolio to bring just a fully integrated value experience to our customers? And, they looked at the market and they examined the different players. And, when we were reacquainted here in 2020, I think they made the decision that now was the time for them to make an acquisition decision as opposed to just a partnering decision. So it's pretty interesting.
And what was it like being on the side of, the person being asked out on the date? What was the process with your team, and what were you just thinking personally inside your head?
Yeah, I mean, as a startup, you spend a lot of time, asking for dollars, right? You're raising capital along the way. We were a fairly bootstrapped company from 2011 on, where we were raising friends and family, seed angel dollars, really up until 2017 when we raised our first institutional round. And so that whole process of raising capital can be a slog. It can be a arduous process there, depending on the markets and cyclicality of your business. And we were successful in doing that. But ultimately, it was really exciting for us to have an interested suitor on the other side, who wanted to actually make us a part of their business unit. We'd seen interest along the way. We knew that there were a lot of potential parties that could acquire SaltStack. And, I think ultimately timing and circumstances make these kinds of deals right and come together at just the right time. It's amazing to me in kind of reflecting on this whole situation. how many points along the way a deal can break up or go wrong, right? And so it's really amazing when you see these deals come together and actually succeed.
Yeah, it is. There's 1,000 points, or somebody could say something wrong and irritate somebody, and
Exactly.
that's enough. So what, if you had to choose one, would you rather be the one getting acquired or the one asking for money? Which process is easier?
Well, I mean, I think that the outcome, right? I think that if any company tells you that they're raising capital and that's their end all be all, that's no end result. So it's great to be on the acquired side of things. And, if I were sort of on that side of things, which is, I think, your question, I much prefer to be on the side of being acquired. I think that that's exciting because it's the culmination of many of your efforts there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say most people that aren't gluttons for punishment would agree with that one. All right, so 2020 has been, taxing on IT infrastructure, and cyber attacks are up heavily. So most of that plays strongly into you guys in 2020. So overall, how has 2020 been from a business standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, 2020 has been just a wild ride for everyone involved. I would say that for our business, one of the reasons why I like our space is because infrastructure automation is a technology that does well in bull or bear markets. Automation is needed when you're growing. Companies are able to really leverage automation to do more with less. And that's the whole premise behind it, is that if you can, my new bosses like to say that if you can do something, or if you have to do something twice in a manual way, you should be able to automate it. And so really that's the premise behind the SaltStack platform, is that we're trying to bring automation to a greater degree to the modern infrastructure. So, as we think about how, 2020 has evolved, companies have, they were roaring ahead and growing, and then there was this period of contraction here, especially when COVID hit. Everybody sort of was on their heels waiting and wondering what to expect. And so automation was needed before when they were growing, but automation was also then interestingly needed when they were contracting, because they were thinking about how to become more efficient, how to become more agile and lean. And so that played into our strength as well. And then when you couple that with the fact that we have a security platform as well, security in 2020 really skyrocketed. You've got 1,700 distinct security vendors in the ecosystem. Nobody really knows who's best, right? Or if there's a holy grail that they should use. So, but they all know that they need security and that it's an essential element of their platform. So for us, we saw that cyber attacks increased by 4x. That was a statistic that the FBI came out with. And so we knew that it was going to be important, and we were able to just ride that wave up. So it was really exciting.
Yeah. And you've got a lot of customers, big and small. I'm always interested in some of your favorite customer success stories. Maybe it was your first one, or a big or complicated one that you guys really helped with. What are a few that come to mind?
Yeah, so man, it's been quite a journey, and it's been fun to work with a lot of our customers. It's one of the things that I enjoy most, is the opportunity to actually get inside of someone's business, learn and understand where that cross-section of value is. We work with companies of all sizes and shapes, but in the early days, I remember us working with companies like MuleSoft or Affirm Payment Networks. These were two companies that were in the 30 to 100 employee range. And they started using SaltStack because they saw the value in it. And then, they went on to become multi-billion-dollar companies, or at least, companies that had raised substantial venture funds. More recently, working with a company called, everybody knows Liberty Mutual, it was great to see the intersection again of both automation and security to come together. They were using us to make sure that their systems were patched and updated. In particular, it was the quoting systems that would provide customers with quotes. And that's an essential part of their business, and so it was neat to see how that all came together.
Yeah, for sure. So how deep do you go into, the business models of these folks so that you can implement your software successfully? And then follow-up question, how often were you kind of surprised at what their business models actually were?
So I usually come in at a little bit of a later stage in the process there if I'm helping our teams. But we're big believers. Our process is key to our success. We've got a great head of sales who has really outlined a very key process there, a very detailed process for how we actually go and qualify business and understand the customer needs. Selling value because we understand where there's problems and where we can add value. But we also encourage them to learn about the business just as a prerequisite, right? Yeah. How big are they? What are they doing in revenue? Check out their press releases and understand that whole process to ensure that when you go in, you know what their priorities are and that you're aligned to those.
Yeah. I just bring it up because every once in a while that you think you know how a company makes money, and
right.
then you look under the hood and I'm like, oh, they make money in 8 different ways.
Yeah. You'd asked the question earlier about infrastructure, though, and you made a comment that reminded me of just how these companies evolve and change. Everybody's using cutting-edge software and technology, right? They're using containers or going to serverless technology. But many companies are a consortium of old and new technology. And that's the challenge in IT, and that's where the complexity is introduced, is that if they're running an old mainframe, right, and they're also trying to incorporate serverless technology or roll out a container ecosystem, that's where the complexity happens. So if you're able to help them successfully navigate and traverse both of those worlds with a single pane of glass or a single solution in our case, that's really what they're looking for. Yeah. So
I can imagine if it's what they want, they're wearing a big smile after when it's all said and done. All right, so on the softer side of being a CEO, you're required to do stuff like this every once in a while and contribute content and stuff. So you're on the Forbes Council, and I've read a few of your pieces there. You're a very good writer. How's that been for you, and what's the upside for you and SaltStack with stuff like that?
Yeah, we've been involved with the Forbes Council for a couple of years. We had looked at a way to really help the SaltStack brand and name get out there to a greater extent. One thing that I'll mention is that SaltStack actually started off as an open source community. And so a lot of the visibility and the adoption of our solution, we've had over 50 million downloads globally since our inception. And, it's interesting that we got a lot of viral visibility and marketing through that community just because it was present in many, many companies. But we realized later in our journey that we needed to develop a more formal, a more direct and punchy sort of marketing strategy. And so we started to do things like that. And our participation in the Forbes Technology Council has been really good for us because it's given us the ability to develop some thought leadership and to really put our ideas out there to a broader audience. And so it's been really, really helpful for us. So,
yeah, that's great. Fun question.
Yeah.
So on your LinkedIn profile, I believe you mentioned that you have the conference record in the Mountain West Conference for the high jump. Do you know if that's still the case?
Yeah, so this is funny because, so I went to BYU, as you know, and while I was there, I was on the track team. I was a walk-on, and yeah, this is a long time ago now. So it's kind of funny to date myself when I talk about high jumping because I'm, in my mid-40s. But as I walked onto the team, just wanted to make the team. And as it turns out, a little bit of training and more focused effort there helped me to get a little bit better. And so, yeah, by the time I finished, I was able to secure the record, and I think it is actually still standing. It's kind of fun.
Awesome. Yeah. So everyone does the fosberry flop. Is that what it is?
That's right, fosberry flop. Good job.
There hasn't been a new method recently?
Not that I know of, at least. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he developed a 1968 Mexico City Olympics.
Yeah.
So
So you obviously have to have the right genes and kind of springy legs, but then it's also timing, right?
yeah, timing and yeah, a lot of conditioning there. You do a lot of plyometrics to kind of condition your muscles to respond fast.
Yeah. Well, very cool. All right, so we have a few interns in the office today. We have a former intern who is going to ask you some questions. Not now, but when we walk off stage. He's got a company that he's building and has built. It's been fun to watch, called Poly. I don't know what questions he's going to ask you, but what advice are you most prone to give to these young entrepreneurs as they're starting out in building their companies?
Wow. I don't know if I just have one sort of golden nugget. There's kind of a lot of different things that I've learned along the way through trial and error, a lot of mistakes made, but also, we kept at it and we were persistent, and I think that was helpful. I think when you're just getting started, one of the things that I really like to identify in a startup is the product market fit, right? Really identifying something as basic as what's the solution that you're delivering to the market that's going to actually cause a customer to pay you money, and hopefully money on a repeatable, annual basis there. That's one of the first things, is ideal customer profile, product market fit, right? Those are two things that I think you just have to nail. And once you've done that, and you know that there's a market and there's a buyer that wants to consume your solution on a repeatable basis, I think you've got the foundation of a great, great solution or great company.
Kamel? I think you do have that with that. Well, cool. Well, this has been very insightful. It's always fun to have a fun success story, and especially when it's so new, and you've got your next decision to make post-acquisition, and we're very glad that you're a part of the Silicon Slopes Advisory Board, and appreciate all you've done over the years for the community. So look forward to your guys' continued success, and thanks for your time.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Jeff McClain, a wealth advisor with Wells Fargo Private Bank. As the presenting sponsor for today's event, we're grateful for the opportunity to show our commitment to the Silicon Slopes community, where we spend so much of our time. My team and I advise so many tech entrepreneurs, executives, founders, to help them and their family better predict their financial future. And so we're grateful to be a part of the community, the event, in the area where we spend so much of our time. With the backing and resources of one of the largest wealth management firms in the nation, my team has the experience and resources that you typically only find in a San Francisco, New York, a Palo Alto, but we're right here locally as the largest wealth management firm here in Utah. And so we'd love the opportunity to connect, to start a conversation. I know personally, with my background as a tax and estate planning attorney, we advise and guide a lot of families, sometimes well in advance of any business transition, exit, whatever it may be, to help them meet their goals. And so as you watch today's event, as you have the chance to participate, reach out and connect to me on LinkedIn. Let's start a conversation about how we can help advise you and your family. So again, my name is Jeff McClain, MCCLEAN. Try to find me on LinkedIn, Wells Fargo Private Bank, and enjoy today's conversation, today's event, and hope you have a good time. Thanks for participating.